Why Trey Mancini should be in a Boston Red Sox uniform today.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed, and it's free. So make sure you continue to tune in every single day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'll tell you a lot more about that, but happy Wednesday. Welcome to today's show. The Red Sox game unfortunately got cut short last night. They had a 2-1 lead, and then it started downpouring with thunder and lightning. I was actually there, and it was pretty horrific, and it was really coming down and not stopping. And in case you are unaware of the rule, they are required to wait 30 minutes after the last piece of lightning strikes before they can resume play. So the thunder and lightning still wasn't seeming to let up, but even once it started to, the rain just kept coming down and coming down and coming down. So they had to call it. So the game will resume at 2:30 p.m. today with the Red Sox up 2-1 in the top of the fourth inning. Brayan Bello will be throwing for the Red Sox in that game. Going to be talking about that a little bit on today's show, as well as the start that Richard Fitz had in the few innings that we did see out of this game last night. And also Trey Mancini and why he'd be a good fit for the Red Sox. So always a bummer when a game gets suspended, especially one that you're at, because you want to feel like you want to watch more baseball action. But it is what it is. Can't control the weather. The Red Sox will pick up where they left off. And when they begin this half doubleheader, whatever you want to call it today, maybe they will have a new player on the roster, because Trey Mancini, former Baltimore Oriole, was recently released by the Diamondbacks because he chose to opt out of his minor league deal. So he opted out and they officially released him yesterday, which made him a free agent. And the reason for him opting out is because he didn't get to the majors with the team by a certain date that was in his contract. So therefore he said, I'm going to become a free agent. So he was officially released by the team. And this is a veteran, 33-year-old, who was playing well in AAA Reno, hitting .308 with 16 homers and 62 RBIs. The release gives him an opportunity to sign with another team that might need help on the major league roster. He hit 129 homers over a 7-year career. That includes time with the Orioles, Astros, and Cubs. He hit a career-high 35 homers for the Orioles in 2019. He missed the 2020 season after surgery, unfortunately, to remove a malignant tumor from his colon. He returned in 2021, hitting 21 home runs. He was traded to the Astros midway through the 2022 season and helped them win a World Series title that year. And then he last played in the big leagues with the Cubs in 2023, batting .234 with 4 home runs over 79 games, before signing a minor league deal with the Marlins last season and being released near the end of spring training. So then obviously he ended up with the Diamondbacks. So this is a guy who has a plethora of experience with a wide variety of different teams, and he has been playing well. So the reason for this being connected to the Boston Red Sox and why he should be part of the Red Sox today is because this could be a simple path for this team to a solution at first base. He kind of fell into their laps, is suddenly available, and he even though hasn't played in MLB since 2023, was once a strong hitter in the middle of that Orioles roster. He won't cost much, and he could potentially solve the Red Sox first base question mark, really, that started when Tristan Casas got hurt and then continued when Rafael Devers didn't learn the position. The Red Sox do have Christian Campbell trying to learn first base right now in AAA, but that's always going to be risky because you never really know how a player is going to respond to that and if it's going to be effective for them. And Mancini knows what he's doing over there and in the box, and he's familiar with the AL East because he played in Baltimore. He's also a really strong clubhouse presence and leader. So the Red Sox, a team that might be looking for more veteran leadership. They obviously have Bregman in the clubhouse, who's been great with the younger players on the roster, as well as Trevor Story, who does his little infield camp every offseason, and he really helps mentor some of the guys too. It's great to have those veterans, but you can never have too many of those, especially with a roster like the Red Sox roster is right now that just has a lot of young players on it and guys who are really still trying to find their form and mold into their role with this Boston Red Sox team. If you add another veteran leader into the mix, that could make all the difference. And on top of that, you're adding a guy who could be serviceable at first base. And while I really like what I've seen from Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro this season with them platooning at first, it's hard to really have that be sustainable for the rest of the season. Getting a solidified first baseman who you know can play the position for you consistently for the rest of the season is really what could separate a playoff team from a non-playoff team. And again, this isn't a knock on the other two. Both Romy and Toro have been getting some really solid at-bats in for the Red Sox. But if they are trying to be a playoff team in 2025, having Mancini there could be really beneficial for this team because you have somebody in there who now could play first base every day. On top of that, too, he is 33 years old. So the Red Sox don't necessarily have to commit to more than just the rest of this season with him if they don't want to. Because if they are saying we still feel like Tristan Casas is our first baseman of the future, then that's fine. Tristan is still hurt, and they don't really know specifically a timetable for when he's going to be ready to come back. They know it's not going to be this season. They're hoping it's by spring training, but nothing's really been confirmed there. All the Red Sox have really said was that they're still leaving that open-ended because obviously he still has some recovery things that he needs to go through before he comes back, and it's still a long process and he's still a ways away. So if the Red Sox are looking to improve the team, they could bring in Trey Mancini while he's been hitting well. Obviously, the question is going to be, how's he going to look in the majors, because he's been removed from the majors for a little bit. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on. But this is a player who could transition into the majors because he has plenty of experience with it. The Red Sox wouldn't have to make some drastic trade for a first baseman, so they wouldn't have to give up assets if they are just signing him for potentially the rest of just this season. So that's another positive to it. And you slot somebody in who could hopefully help the lineup because of the fact that he's hitting well right now in AAA. And he's a guy who the Red Sox know they could lean on for mentorship and support of a lot of the other players on the team. So it really makes a ton of sense for the Red Sox to at least explore that and look into it, because if they could require a first baseman right now to help that side of the field and somebody who could boost their lineup without having to make a trade, that would be a win for this team. So definitely would like to see them look into that and at least explore the option of bringing Mancini in. But coming up, is Richard Fitts somebody who we could really trust in the rotation? Going to be talking about that next. If you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, SupplyHouse will absolutely save your career. This is the site that's made for the skilled trades. It's really easy to use. It has a website that's packed with so many helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, it includes a complete inventory of over 200 1,000 parts from 400 plus top brands. My cousin actually uses it regularly because he is in the electrical field, and it is a lifesaver for him for his job. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. It truly has helped my cousin. So if that sounds like you and you are in that type of industry, definitely look into it, because the selection of products that it will give you, I promise you, is life-changing. So check out their website ASAP. Well, the Red Sox had a game that ended up getting suspended last night and will be resumed later on today. Richard Fitz did make the start for Boston in the game, throwing those 3 innings that they got in, giving up 2 hits and 1 earned run with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. He threw 38 pitches total, with 24 of those being for strikes, and he's now at a 4.50 ERA on the season. Obviously not a big start from him because it got cut short, and even if they had resumed the game from the rain delay, he likely wouldn't have gone back out there, because once your arm is cold again, it's really hard to amp it back up to go back out there as a starter if the rain delay becomes excessively long. So it was kind of out of the realm of possibility that he was going to go back out there at that point in the game. But 38 pitches total, 24 for strikes. So overall, his command certainly could have been a little bit better, but he was throwing strikes. I mean, again, only 1 walk in the outing, and he was pitching pretty effectively from what we saw. He has 4 pitches that he typically goes to: the 4-seamer, the slider, the sweeper, and the sinker. And the biggest thing I've noticed with him is that he could mix up his usage a little bit more if he wants to be more successful with this Boston Red Sox team. He uses the 4-seamer a lot of the time, and then the slider is the next pitch that he uses most frequently. So he primarily does lean heavily on those 2 pitches, but then he adds the sweeper and the sinker in there every once in a while too. But I want him to get a little bit more confident with those 2 pitches, because if he could start amping up the usage of those pitches, he's going to be a very difficult pitcher for hitters to catch on to. It's a lot easier for a hitter to catch on to a guy who's only leaning on 2 pitches constantly. And that was the trouble that Tanner Houck had earlier on in his career, was he really only had 2 pitches that he could throw really well. And so the issue with that became that opposing hitters were figuring that out easily, because once they would see him the second or third time through, they would be able to pick up on the pitches that he was throwing. So you really do need at least a 3rd pitch, if not a 4th, in order to be among the best pitchers and set yourself up among the best starters, not only on the team, but also in the league. So I would love to see Fitz utilize those other 2 off-speed pitches a little bit more than just relying primarily heavily on the 4-seamer and the slider, which, again, those are his best pitches, and that's fine. And he still should know that those are his lockdown pitches. So if he's trying to fan a guy, he's most likely going to throw that slider or challenge him with the fastball, because he knows that the majority of the time those are the pitches that can get people out. So certainly continue to utilize those, especially in those types of situations where it's maybe a full count and the other team has the bases loaded, and you really want to make sure that you don't let that inning blow up or get out of control, and you want to strike this guy out to get out of the inning, especially if there's 2 outs at the time. Utilize those 2 pitches. Utilize the 4-seamer and the slider as the pitch you throw in that moment, because they are the ones you feel most confident in. But if he can continue to utilize the sweeper and the sinker a little bit more, he is going to be a lot more improved, I feel like, and could stretch out his outings a little bit more, because one of the biggest problems we've seen with him is length in his starts. On April 12th at the White Sox, he threw 5 innings, giving up 2 hits and no runs with 5 strikeouts and 1 walk. So that was a solid outing for him. For sure, got a lot of what we needed from him. But ever since then, he hasn't really been able to provide that length. He did get hurt after that outing and then was placed on the IL. And then he came back recently because he tried coming back from the injured list and got shelled and gave up 6 runs in an inning, and things just ended up not working out for him. So they ended up optioning him to AAA Worcester, and then he came back recently. So basically, he had the April 12th outing. He got hurt. He got activated again on May 27th, and he threw just 3 innings in that outing, giving up 2 hits and no earned runs with 1 walk and 2 strikeouts. It's because he threw a lot of pitches over those 3 innings, so the Red Sox couldn't really bring him back out there. And then on June 2nd versus the Angels was when he threw 1 inning, giving up 4 hits and 6 runs, with 5 of those being earned. He gave up 3 home runs and 1 walk. He just very clearly didn't have it. So the time between April 12th and May 27th, he was using to recover from his injury. But then when they called him back up to the majors and he started throwing again was when he got completely shelled. And that was that June 2nd outing against the Angels. So then the Red Sox said, okay, we're going to option him to AAA Worcester, see how he does there and see if he can learn some things and pick up some things. And then they gave him another shot because Hunter Dobbins got placed on the injured list. So Richard Fitz getting called back up was the corresponding roster move there. If Dobbins was healthy, Fitz would probably still be in AAA right now. But they said, okay, let's give Fitz another shot because we need another starter to slot into that rotation with Dobbins being hurt. So then he came back, and then on June 25th, at the Angels, he threw 4 innings, giving up 4 hits and 2 earned runs with 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. And then you head to last night's game with the 3 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. So obviously last night's game we can't judge because it got cut short due to weather. So we don't really know how deep into the game he would have thrown otherwise. But the biggest thing is that you hear 3 innings, 1 inning, 4 innings. Those outings are not long enough. We need more length from him. And that again brings me back to his pitch arsenal. If he's throwing more pitches, opposing hitters will be stumped a lot more, and he's more likely to escape innings quicker than he has been. And the big thing to keep in mind here is that in last night's game, when he only got to throw 3 innings, he threw 38 pitches total over 3 innings, which at that rate is roughly 13 pitches an inning, which is not a lot. So he was on pace to hopefully be able to have a long and stronger outing. Obviously, there's no way to know for sure because the Reds could have just piled on a bunch of runs in the 4th inning, and then he could have gotten pulled. But based on how he looked in the first 3 innings, if you're going off of that, he was on pace for averaging about 13 pitches an inning, which would have gotten him a lot deeper into the game. So that's definitely promising if you take that number for what it is. But again, short sample size there. So that's the biggest thing with Fitz that I am really trying to eye and hone in on right now is, can he deliver outings in which he goes deeper into the game? And that's why I feel like he still has some things that he needs to develop related to not only his arsenal, but how long he's able to stretch himself out. Because the Red Sox right now, the last thing they need is for the bullpen to continue to be used over and over and over again. As it is, both Brennan Bernardino and Greg Weissert have been completely fatigued. You could see it in their performances, and their arms just aren't really cooperating with them. So both of them, because of the overusage, have had their performances impacted. Brennan Bernardino is somebody who really has been reliable out of the Red Sox pen all year, but he had a couple outings in which he really struggled, and it was because of overusage. Greg Weissert, same thing, early on in the season, was really reliable out of the Red Sox pen, and he slowly slipped a little bit into being messier on the mound. And again, I blame fatigue for that. So the last thing the Red Sox need right now is to be put in a situation in which their relievers are having to throw earlier in games, and it's causing these guys to feel exhausted and the Red Sox bullpen as a whole to not be as productive. So that's something that I do worry about with Richard Fitz moving forward is, can he stretch out his performances they should try to get him to throw into the 6th inning next time he's pitching well. For example, last night, if things continued on the pattern he was on, Alex Cora definitely would have kept him in for longer because he knows that whenever he can take advantage of not having to utilize the bullpen earlier in the game, he's going to do that. So I'm sure if Fitz continued to throw the way that he did and wasn't hitting a ton of bumps in the road, he probably would have kept him in and he would have been able to stretch him out longer. But I think the Red Sox should be challenging him. Throw him in situations that he's not used to. Have him step outside his comfort zone. Stretch him out a little bit and maybe have him throw into the 6th inning when you normally wouldn't, because the only way he's going to be able to increase the way that he's pitching and how deep into the game he's pitching is to put him in those spots, force him to utilize those pitches that he doesn't throw as much and stretch him out to throw longer into outings than he's used to. So that's the key to Richard Fitz being successful in the Red Sox rotation. And speaking of the Red Sox rotation, will Brayan Bello show up for the Red Sox in the resumed game? Going to be discussing that next. Managing your money can be really overwhelming. I know for me it is. I continue to find things that I'm spending money on that I don't need to. A recent example that I found was takeout. My husband and I like to order takeout a lot for dinner when we're just feeling lazy and don't feel like cooking. And recently, I started using Monarch Money, and it really helped us to see how much we're spending on takeout. So ever since then, we've been able to cut down how much we're ordering in takeout so that we can really save money. And it's been an absolute lifesaver for me. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. It's a great deal, and it really will keep you informed on where your money is going, because one of the scariest things in life, at least from what I've experienced, is having no idea where your money's actually going and thinking you have more money than you do. So you can prevent all of that and prevent the financial burden and financial stress if you just check out Monarch Money today and start using it to save money. Brayan Bello is scheduled to pitch for the Boston Red Sox today as they got through 3 innings of their game against the Reds last night, and then they went into a really long rain delay that felt like forever because a bunch of us were just standing around waiting to get an update. And then they ended up saying this game has been suspended and will be resumed tomorrow. So today at 2:30, the Red Sox will pick up that game from right where they left off, which is in the top of the 4th inning. Red Sox up 2-1. And I at first thought that they were going to make this a bullpen game because of the fact that the game had already started, and why waste a starter when you're going to need somebody to start game 3. But it has now been reported that Brayan Bello is going to go out there and start the game at 2:30. It will technically be a relief appearance because, again, the game already started. So it's a literal continuation of the game. So when you look at the box score after the game, it's going to really feel like it was all played in one day because it shows it like that because it's still the same exact game. They just had to resume it a different day. So when it comes up in the box score, it'll say Richard Fitz was the starter and it'll say Brayan Bello came in relief. So here's why it makes sense to have Brayan Bello start that game. Because while you would normally think about the situation and say, okay, the Red Sox obviously are going to have a reliever throw because they don't want to waste a starter on a game that's being resumed. Because the Red Sox are winning that game right now 2-1, why jeopardize trying to win that game? Because if you win that game, you win the series already. And obviously winning game 3 would be a bonus because that means you sweep the Reds. But if you win this first game, then the second game, it's not nearly as big of a deal if you win or not, because again, you still want to win, but if you don't win it, you've already won the series. So it kind of is what it is. So it gives the Red Sox a better chance to win by having a starting pitcher out there, because a reliever won't have to rush their routine and warm up pregame as if they're going into the game to start. That can sometimes mess up a reliever, and it could throw off the entire game strategy if said reliever is not fully ready or warmed up because they're not used to having to throw that early in the game. And second of all, if you throw a starter out there because you're already 3 innings in, there's a chance that that starter could finish the game for you. And then you look at game 3 of the series, which is later on at night, and you have a completely stacked bullpen because none of them were used in the earlier game. By the way, the later game tonight is still scheduled for 7:10 p.m., which is when it was supposed to be scheduled for. So if you have a ticket for that game, same time. If you had a ticket to last night's game, you can get into today's resume of it at 2:30, and your same ticket will be good for that. So when the Red Sox go into game 3, if they have a starter on the mound who finishes the game for them, then they're looking and saying, wow, we have a fully ready pen because nobody pitched in the game that had been suspended and was resumed. Or if you have your starter go, 5 innings, then you put your closer in the 9th inning if you're hopefully winning at that point. So that was kind of the strategy the Red Sox used and why they went about saying, okay, we're going to have Brayan Bello pick up where Richard Fitz left off. And here's the thing with Brayan Bello. He struggled earlier on in the season to give us length. May 8th versus the Rangers, he threw just 4 2/3 innings, giving up 4 hits. No runs somehow, but he had 5 walks, and that was the killer, and that's why he couldn't pitch deeper into that game because it took him a lot of pitches to get to that point because of the 5 walks and him having a lack of command, so only 4.2 innings. May 13th at Tigers, another 4.2 innings, giving up 6 hits and 2 earned runs, including a homer, with 2 walks and 4 strikeouts. So obviously, again, not the best outing for him. And the biggest reason for that was he couldn't pitch deep enough. He did walk 2 and record 4 strikeouts, but again, he utilized a lot of pitches to get through that. May 18th versus the Braves, 4.1 inning pitch, giving up 10 hits and 7 earned runs with 5 walks and 3 strikeouts. Again, not his day. 4 1/3, not being able to get through 5 innings. And again, the walks were a problem. That was a consistent pattern with Bello. Then on May 23rd, 4 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. So we had cut down on the walks at that point, but again, only through 4 innings because his pitch count was high and he isn't overly effective. And the thing is, Bello will allow a lot of base traffic. That's something that really has held him back, is because he does allow a lot of base traffic, but he does know how to get out of the inning and pitch around it. It's just the problem is that the pitch count gets really high, so then he can't pitch deeper into the game. May 28th at Brewers, another 4.2 innings pitched, giving up 3 hits and 1 earned run with 2 walks and 2 strikeouts. So a better outing for him, but again, still only pitched 4 2/3. So here's when things started to click for him. Once the month of June hit, he started to be a lot more effective because, again, May 28th, 4.2 innings. Then you jump to June 3rd, and he threw 6 innings, giving up 6 hits and 3 earned runs with 2 walks and 4 strikeouts. So, again, 3 earned runs, a quality start, but he grinded through it, and he got through 6 innings. That's providing length. That's what the Red Sox need. Then on June 9th versus the Rays, he threw 6.1 innings, giving up 7 hits and 3 earned runs with 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. So, again, cut down on the walks and was able to pitch into the 7th inning. June 15th versus the Yankees, he threw 7 innings, giving up 3 hits and no earned runs with 3 walks and 8 strikeouts. So, again, he did walk a few guys in that game, but the reality is he threw 7 innings, so it's fine. It doesn't matter. Obviously, the command wasn't 100% there, and he definitely struggles with his command in general, but throwing 7 innings is huge for the bullpen. Then on June 21st at the Giants, 6 innings pitched, giving up 4 hits and 1 earned run with 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. Very effective. Again, 1 earned run over 6. We would 100% take that. Then his most recent outing, June 27th versus the Blue Jays, he threw 6 innings, giving up 8 hits and 3 earned runs with 3 walks and 1 strikeout. So again, not the absolute sharpest. Command wasn't all there, but he got through 6 innings. And that is the biggest point that I'm trying to make here with Brayan Bello is he went from a lot of times averaging 4 innings or 4 1/3 to now averaging 6 innings in his starts. And it's because he's able to pitch around the base traffic a little bit more effectively than he was earlier on in the season. So it's allowing for him to be in the games for longer. So because over his last few outings, he's been averaging 6 or 7 innings, that's a promising sign for today's game because the Red Sox already played 3 innings of this game. So him coming in the 4th inning is the equivalent to him coming in the 1st inning. So there's a possibility that he could finish the game because there are 6 innings left in this game. And he's gotten through 6 innings multiple times in his starts. Now, the question is going to be, it's a daytime start, and Brayan Bello has had a history of struggling in day games before. So I'd be interested in seeing what version of him we do get in this game, since he has struggled in that capacity in the past. But biggest difference here for the Red Sox is if Brayan Bello can get through all or most of the rest of the game, that would be an absolute game changer, because not only then would they have a completely rested bullpen for game 3, but assuming that the Red Sox offense either adds some insurance runs or their pitching is able to hold that 2-1 lead, then voila, the Red Sox have won the series, and then game 3 just is what it is. So it definitely makes sense to have Brayan Bello out there, especially because of the fact that the Red Sox have seen him be able to throw deeper into games as of late, and he's really improving in a lot of areas. And that's something that can give people a lot of optimism. So hopefully we can see Brayan Bello's best stuff. That's what I'm really hoping, that he brings his A game to this game and the Red Sox can clinch the series after the resumed game. So that way then the night game is a little bit more stress-free. So we'll have to see how that goes, but I appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today. I really do appreciate that. It really means a lot to me. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, which goes over every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great show. It really does go over all the games that took place that night. So if you don't want to miss that, check that out right after this. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.